Greetings, airplane collectors. It's me, your host Ray. For over 10 years now, I've been collecting 1 to 200 scale model aircraft. Today, my fleet totals 50 1 to 200 scale models. That's quite a lot. Inevitably, with such a large fleet, I have a few icons of aviation hidden throughout. This is my Airbus A380. It's the world's largest passenger airliner, rightfully named the Super Jumbo Jet due to its size. This model is one of the largest and heaviest in my 1 to 200 scale fleet. This is my Antonov 225. This aircraft is the largest cargo aircraft ever flown, having been used around the world for special deliveries of all sorts. Rightfully named the Dream, this model is the largest and heaviest model in my 1 to 200 scale fleet. These aircraft are renowned worldwide for their unique characteristics, yet they still bow before one. While she isn't the largest, nor the fastest, nor does she have the highest cargo capacity, her exploits are legendary. Standing above all is an aircraft that has been the symbol of commercial aviation for over 50 years. An aircraft known by many names. An aircraft known for her design, elegance, and capabilities. An aircraft that changed the history of commercial aviation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Her Majesty, the Queen of the Skies. What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to a very special model airplane review. It's your host Ray. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the KJ model 1 to 200 scale replica of the first Boeing 747 ever built. In this video, I'll discuss the box, then I'll do an in-depth review of the model and its features, and at the end of the video, I will give my personal opinion about what I think of the model and whether or not I recommend it to other collectors. This model is extremely rare, with only 169 pieces produced worldwide. That is a very low number for a die-cast model airplane replica. I am very fortunate to own this model, and I would like to give a personal shout out to my friend Steve, who made it possible for me to obtain such a significant and beautiful model aircraft. So, Steve, thank you. I really appreciate the work that went into this, and I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to own this model and make this review. So once again, thank you. That being said, this is going to be a pretty long video, so please sit back, relax, and let's get this started. The box is a large cardboard box with a sleeve made from cardstock that slides over it. The dimensions are 35.5 centimeters lengthwise, 34 centimeters tall, and 13 centimeters wide. I'll show you on the box now. So here's the front. There's the bottom. The right and left sides do not have any box art on them due to the sleeve. This is the top. Up here we can see this aircraft with a gold finish, and much to the displeasure of a few collectors, myself included, a gold-finished version of this model was released, and personally I think it looks ridiculous, but everyone to their own. Very few of these were produced, so if you're looking to get this one, you're going to have an even harder time finding the gold version, and it's very expensive too. And here's the backside. Back here there's a bit of information about the Boeing 747 family, as well as a few photos of the model that is within the box. Take a moment to read this if you'd like to. Included in the box is the model, fully assembled, painted, and ready to display, 2 options for landing gear configuration, extended and retracted, a metal display stand, and an information card. This information card is about the size of your standard credit or debit card, and it's made out of a hard plastic material, and it's got some specifications of the aircraft. Additionally, mine appears to have a piece of hair embedded within the card itself, so yuck. But anyway, as you can see, I got unit 21 out of 169. As mentioned before, there are 2 configurations for the landing gear on this model, extended and retracted. For the majority of this review, I'll have the model with the gear extended, but I will demonstrate what the retracted covers look like later, so please stay tuned for that. The included metal display stand does a very good job of holding the model, and as you can see, it has a black foam cushion to protect the paint on the underside from being scratched against the display stand. So here's what the model looks like on the stand. It's a very sturdy fit. It is somewhat loose, but not so loose to the point where the model is at any risk of falling. So the stand is reliable, and you really shouldn't have to get another stand unless you prefer it that way. While we're here, I'll give you a quick 360 of the model before I start my review. Fuselage length for this model is 34.5 centimeters, wingspan is 30 centimeters, and from the ground to the top of the vertical stabilizer, when this thing is sitting on the landing gear, it's 9.5 centimeters tall. Pretty darn big for a model airplane, and accurate to 1:200 scale. This model is made primarily out of die-cast metal. I don't know if there are any parts that are plastic. I imagine there are, but they're pretty insignificant if there are any plastic parts. I should also mention that even though this model was made by KJ Wings, this model was made using the JC Wings mold. Let's start up the review at the front section of the fuselage. The nose profile in this model looks really good, shape seems pretty accurate, but the thing I would like to discuss primarily is the printed detail and paint application. As you can see, paint application went on almost flawlessly. I do not see any imperfections really. The only thing I can really nitpick out of this is the border between the gray and the white here. You can see a bit of a part where the paint got a little bit thicker there, but it's barely noticeable. You have to see it really close to even recognize that it's there. But aside from that, paint application went on beautifully. Don't get me started on printed details because I could talk about that for 2 hours. The printed detail in the form of the logos of all the customers here, all of them look fantastic. There is not a single inconsistency with any of them. All of them look really good. Another thing that really caught my attention was the anti-glare shield here. The finish on the model is gloss. As you can see on the camera, the light is reflecting off of the surface of the model. But if I show you the glare shield here, it's a matte finish, which is accurate. So this thing is incredibly accurate so far. So I'll move down the fuselage, and you can see the detail and consistency continues. There really is no defects that I can find here on the fuselage in any aspect. Painted detail, molded detail, printed detail. There is really nothing I can complain about except for the paint thing that I pointed out, but that's a very small nitpick, and you see that on pretty much every die-cast model. Here's our big vertical stabilizer. This looks really good. Molded detail for the rudder is clearly defined and it's not really filled in. I can see it from a distance, which is great. The 747 title here goes really hard. It looks amazing. Paint application looks good. The only thing I can really nitpick about is right up here you can see a very small piece of white paint coming through the red. I can patch that up in seconds, so I really won't complain about it too much, but that's the one imperfection I've found so far. That little bit of white paint is still poking up from the red on this side as well. There's a different one right up here. It's a little bit higher up than on the left side. And also a bit of white paint pokes out from under the 747 title here, right under the 4. Again, very, very minor imperfections, almost negligible. But aside from that, it looks great on the right side too. Now I'm going to move down the right side fuselage. Everything I said about the left side is applicable to the right side. There's really nothing to complain about or point out here, just an incredible amount of detail and incredible quality. I am very satisfied so far if you haven't been able to determine that already. Moving on to the wings for this model. The wings on this model are very nicely detailed. As you'll see, there is no printed detail on the wings, which usually there is. However, on this aircraft, there is not a need for printed detail, so I just want to point that out. Molded detail is very nice in the form of the control surfaces on the top end here. None of the control surfaces are filled in with paint, and they're all very clearly defined, which looks fantastic. Painted detail is also pretty good. We have some metallic paint on the leading edge of the wing, and as well as a very slightly different shade of gray paint here on the leading edge as well. You can barely see it, but there is a line right there for the difference in paint. Looks really good. And additionally, we have gemmed landing lights. This is a very rare feature on 1:200 scale models these days, and it looks fantastic. So very well done on the part of KJ Wings there. Now on the bottom, it's not really as detailed here either, but the control surfaces definitely come in clutch down here as well. You can see all of the flaps here, and you can see the leading edge slats, which look fantastic. Amazing job so far. Now here on the edge of the wings, we can see a very small probe. Now, you might be confused because on early 747s, these probes tend to be longer. However, on this aircraft specifically, the probes were this short, so this is an accurate detail. Moving to the rear of the aircraft, here the horizontal stabilizers look really nice. They have a good looking metallic paint painted on them. This looks really good. There's no inconsistencies with it, and it's accurate, so that's very nice to see. APU looks pretty good as well. There's only a few paint splotches that are absurdly tiny that go out onto the white paint here, but it's really nothing. The APU looks really nice. The dark metallic gray looks good on the exhaust, so no complaints. The joint between the horizontal stabilizers and the fuselage is pretty good as well. I don't even see any glue residue on there. That's really cool. Yeah, they did a very good job there. Now under here we have a few very small imperfections with the cheat line. So as you can see, the red cheat line, it ends here, and it doesn't exactly align with the APU access doors, and it also deviates very slightly from its course. Again, very small nitpicks, almost negligible. It was very hard to spot this, but I did spot it eventually. But that's really the only imperfection I can complain about down here, and even then it's really small. Back here we also have, I'm not really sure what these are, but this is accurate to the 747. It's a very nice detail. And we have a very small antenna here, which appears to be slightly bent. Might be able to bend that back in place, but it is on there nice and tight, so it's probably better just to leave it alone. Moving on to the engines. The engines on this model are done very nicely as well. They're painted in virtually entirely silver paint, which looks really nice. Paint application looks pretty good. Details look very good. Printed details are definitely excelling here in the engines. You can see on the exhaust there's a few printed details. Back here, what appear to be scratches, those actually aren't scratches, those are details as well. They went really precise with the details. Now, on the printed details, they went absolutely crazy on this Pratt & Whitney logo right here. That's incredibly small, and they did an amazing job on it, so I'm really impressed with that. I really do appreciate the detail. Aside from that, everything else seems to be in check. There is a bit of a lump in the paint here, small texturing thing. And there's also this thing you see right here, that's an indentation. This is present on all of the engine pylons, so I assume it's an accurate detail. I really won't complain about it since it doesn't look terrible either. Now from the front of the engines, you can see that this model has spinning fan blades. And this one's a bit stiff, but they still spin. And the spinner spirals are accurate and they look really nice too. So they definitely did a very good job on the engines. This is the engine closer to the fuselage. The one further out is ever so slightly different. Well, not the engine, but rather the pylon. As you can see here, there is a section of standard gray paint that is not present on the engines closer to the fuselage. This is an accurate detail. I just wanted to point this out. Now let's discuss aerial features. This model has 3D lights, sat domes, well, a singular sat dome, and antennas. So this is the top section of the front of the aircraft. Here we have a gemmed strobe here. This looks really good. It's painted red. It's in the right place. It's centered on the fuselage, as it should be. Here we have an antenna, pretty big one. Looks nice. It's fit on quite sturdily as well. This, I'm not really sure what this is. I want to call it a sat dome because, well, it looks like a sat dome. But yeah, it's up here, and it fits to the fuselage perfectly. There is a very little seam gap between the fuselage and the dome itself. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you on the right side. They got it dead center on the fuselage too. Here's what it looks like from the right side. They did an amazing job on attaching this thing. Hats off to KJ Wings. And there is also one more antenna back here. On the bottom, things aren't really as interesting. There is a few antennas down here, as I mentioned earlier. So here is one antenna. It's a very small one. It does appear to be slanted a little bit, or I'm not sure if that's just a gap in between the fuselage and the antenna, but either way, it looks really good. Back here, we have a 3D light as well. This looks pretty good. It's centered on the fuselage. And if you're concerned if the display stand will hit the light like it does on some models, no, it does not. So it just clears the stand there. So that's very nice. And I'll move to the rear of the aircraft because there is an antenna back there. Do I have enough? Yes, I have enough room. So there is one more small antenna back here, and then I pointed out the rest of the aerial features when I was talking about the rear of the aircraft. So pretty good selection of aerial details as well. All of them look pretty good. None of them are detached, so I really have nothing to complain about. So here's the bottom of the aircraft, and now I'm going to begin to discuss the landing gear. The landing gear on this model is very nice. They all attach through a system of magnetic attachments. I'll pull out one of the bogies here. This is pretty good. It pivots nicely. The paint finish on the door is a bit textured, but it's really not bad. The wheels roll, they're made out of rubber, and yeah, they do pivot within an accurate range, so that's very nice. And you can see the magnet right up there. I'll pull out one of the fuselage bogies. This looks really good as well. It pivots a bit more than the underwing bogies, which is accurate as well. Wheels roll. Quality is very good on the landing gear so far. Now for the nose gear. The nose gear is very nicely done as well. However, there's really no way to tell which way is forward with respect to at least the gear doors. The only way you can tell is by looking at it from the side. The side that is shorter right here, that goes towards the front. So there's that. But as you can see, there's also gemmed landing lights on here too, and the wheel does pivot within a full 360-degree range. So quality on the nose gear is not lacking either. The wheels roll and they're made out of rubber, just like the main landing gears. So here's what the empty gear bays look like without any of the landing gear configuration options in. Now I'm going to fit in the retracted landing gear configuration covers. So they just fit into their respective slots like so. You just drop them in there and they sit nice and easy. So that's one underwing one. Here is the other one. They are a little bit harder to handle without precision tweezers. The nose one is a little bit more difficult. And it's also hard to tell which direction it's supposed to go in, but as you can see, it is angled slightly upwards, but the shorter side up here, that goes towards the front. And yeah, this little gap here also goes towards the front. This is added intentionally to allow you to insert a plastic tool to remove it if and when you want to remove it. And this line here is to show that this is a two-door thing, so that also looks very nice. So we'll set that nice and snug. And here's what they look like. So the ones for the main gears are pretty much perfect. Yeah, they're absolutely perfect. They fit seamlessly with the fuselage. I can run my finger and it won't stop, as in like it won't catch on the gear covers. And same with the underwing ones. They just look fantastic. No complaints whatsoever. The nose gear one fits in quite nicely as well. There is a decent gap between the fuselage and the gear cover, but it's really not terrible. I can live with that. So that's really the only gripe I have with the gear covers. Aside from that, they fit very nicely to the aircraft. Also included are two of these plastic removal tools. To use these effectively, you just use them with the retracted gear covers when they're in place. So you just take this, stick it into the gap, like I said earlier, and they come right on out. That's for the nose gear. Let's do the main gear ones. So the underwing one right here, just gotta put it in there. It falls right on out. And the fuselage one, this one's a little bit harder, but just you gotta give it a push and it got stuck on there, but it comes out very easily too. So here's a view at the front of the aircraft. Here I'm gonna discuss cockpit window printing, wing flags, gear balance, all that fun stuff. So cockpit window printing appears to be perfectly symmetrical, and the dot on the nose there seems to be pretty well done. It seems to be a perfect circle right here. Nice and centered on that nose cone. So very good with regards to printing, like I said earlier. Wing flex seems to be okay. It's within accurate proportions, it seems. I don't really see anything off with it. Vertical stabilizer seems to be pretty straight up. It might be tilted a little bit. Yeah, it's tilted a little bit to the left side of the aircraft. Not by much, but a little bit. And the horizontal stabilizers, those look pretty good. They are flexed maybe a little bit high. I'm not 100% sure, but it's still acceptable, so I really won't complain about it. Gear balance seems to be symmetrical as well. Engine clearance looks good. There's not a problem with that. So overall, everything looks pretty good up here. And with that, at long last, comes the end of my review. Now, before I move into my personal opinion and recommendation, the aircraft I just reviewed is on the left side of your screen. The one on the right is the final 747 ever produced, also in 1:200 scale. That model was made by Gemini Jets, and I have a review of that on my channel as well. Link to that will be down below in the description in the pinned comment if you want to watch that. I just figured it'd be really cool to have the very first 747 ever produced next to the very last one, since I have both. Now, with regards to the model I just reviewed, on this channel I have reviewed many models, and I've always found something wrong with them. There will never be a perfect model airplane for me. I'll always find something to nitpick at. And this model was certainly no exception. However, the things I did find wrong with this model were so negligible. I mean, they were the tiniest of problems. With respect to everything else that's being produced today, the model I just reviewed is nothing short of perfect. I am incredibly astounded at the quality and the time that I imagine went into making that model. You can tell that they wanted to get this right, and KJ Wings did just that. This model is seriously something impressive, and I'm really grateful that they did it because it's a very significant piece of aviation history as well that I'm very grateful to now have in my collection. So, I don't think I should state the obvious, but I absolutely recommend this model to anyone who can and will get their hands on it. Like I said, it's very rare, very hard to find, but if you can find yourself a copy of this model, get it because one, it's going to be hard to find, and two, it's seriously something special. It's a very nicely made model, and I'm very glad to have it. Well, that's all I got for you folks. Thank you so much for watching this very long video. This is definitely one of my longer reviews. Stay tuned for more model airplane content. I've got several things planned. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think about this review down below and any suggestions and any ways I can improve. I always appreciate that. Take care of yourselves. Happy building, happy collecting. Catch you guys next time.